So welcome everybody. I'm Amy Halloran and I will be your facilitator for the evening. By the power vested in me, I pronounce this a meeting of the Northeast Grainshed Alliance, and thank you for taking the time for all of us to be together. Like I said, and regret a million times, not in person, but at least we have these roots to get to each other. This is a chance to just have an update on what we are doing on the various parts of our grant work and other projects. We're not going to take a lot of your time tonight. Just roll through with some updates on the 4 different sections of the grant project and say hello. So welcome. We're throwing our vision, mission, and values up on the screen just to get a reminder of where we are as an organization trying to increase the grain growing capacity and use within the region. Working on demand through collaboration, and also working on demand by, building demand for grains through consumer awareness. Our values are inclusivity, collaboration, visibility, and action. And I think that we are putting our mission to work in the objectives of our committees, as you'll see soon. So we do have this large USDA Regional Food Systems Partnership grant, and we have objectives that are we're going to get updates on. Our first is from Nadine McGack, who's going to give us an update on the action plan.
All right. Hi, everyone. So for this objective one for the action plan, our goal was to put in place a status reporting process that was required for the updates that are needed for the grant. We also developed a governance proposal, and then we're currently working on all of the other objectives 2, 3, and 4, basically provided drafts for the action plan. So what we're currently doing in objective 1 is pulling that together and creating one draft document that's gonna, go through several rounds of feedback, and then we'll be able to complete the action plan.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Nadine? No need to raise your hand, just shout it out. I guess not. So Hannah, would you please give an update on the awareness and education campaign?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Before I start, I just want to say like the beauty of regional local grains. I feel like I'm still a novice. Like I started working with One Mighty Mill about 2 years ago, and that's kind of what propelled me into this amazing, intricate world of our grain chain. So I'm kind of like our outreach coordinator. I've been working with our Objective 2 group on mostly the square foot projects, but we also are sponsoring or partnershiping with the Hudson Valley, I always mess up his name, Hudson River Maritime Center, and the Northeast Grain Race of 2022. And right now it's really localized in New York with the schooner Apollonia doing a lot of carbon neutral grain delivery to Long Island City, to some of our members. Big Alice Brewing and Hudson Valley Malt have been very active in this grains race, and it's basically seeing how we can move cargoes of grain from farms, producers, and with carbon neutral footprint, trying to show how we can change our overall system of grain and maybe make it more environmentally friendly. The other states haven't really gotten into it, but we're trying to get this going, and it's been really cool to see the people who have been part of it. And we're also doing a Follow the Green weekend tour in Vermont. It's going to be in the Northeast Kingdom, and it's a great way to explore Northeast Kingdom, which I feel like is kind of one of the meccas of local grain right now. We have a lot of awesome members part of it: the Thornhill Farm, Elmore Mountain Bread, New American Stone Mill, Brock Bakehouse, also lots of chefs that will be making amazing grain meals, seeing cheese tours, going to a distillery. It's a really great way for people just like me who are, consuming our grains every day, but want to really be immersed in the local grain lifestyle for 3 days. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can go on Old Ways. The link is right down there, but you can just look up Follow the Grain Vermont tour and it will show up right away. Really exciting stuff is our square foot project.
Thank you, Hannah. That was great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining.
September, and we're working on certifying both our the horizontal logo right there with the 18.3 square feet. And it's really just another way to connect people who eat local grains every day and see how our consuming, us as consumers really impact our farmland and what we do with it, what we do with our purchasing power, seeing how breaking it down to the square foot can really help us be more connected to what we eat and drink. And our first annual Square Foot Saturday, which is really just another way to celebrate our members, and will be the first Saturday of April. We have about 5 members who are going to be hosting it, and we'll have some Square Foot swag and just demos, just talking more about how grains from the land go into the things that we eat and drink. And our first member who actually started putting the Square Foot logo on his products, Lenny from River Valley Community Grains, is going to talk a little bit just on the impact he's seen with the logo on his flour bags.
Thanks, Hannah. That was great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lenny Busenitz. I'm co-founder of River Valley Community Grains based in New Jersey. And I have been working with and collaborating with the Northeast Grainshed Alliance and getting the word out about the Square Foot project. Hannah may have already mentioned it. Square Foot originated with Barry LeBenz of Kent Falls Brewing in Connecticut. And Barry wanted to share with his customers about how many square feet of farmland it took to produce a pint of beer. And also to then recognize that farmland is needed, has to be preserved in order to grow the grains to make that pint of beer. And as being part of River Valley Community Grains, we've been trying to spread the word about the Square Foot project. And we do so by attending multiple farmer markets in northern New Jersey. So it's a great opportunity for us to help spread the word. And some of the ways I do that, we've actually have I have a 2-pound bag of winter wheat flour here, and we've been placing the square foot logo on the front of our bags to help so that it's prominently displayed, and we hope to encourage conversations around that. This winter wheat here was harvested at Ethos Farm in Long Valley, New Jersey. And then I also have a postcard here, the Northeast Grainshed Alliance, and again describing the square foot project. So the public grabs a bunch of those, and then their favorite item that they love to grab are the square foot project stickers. So great for water bottles, and again another way to help spread the word. And the reaction from the public regarding the square foot project has been overwhelmingly positive. It has resonated really well. There were some initial concerns that how many square feet of farmland it takes to produce, let's say, this 2-pound bag of flour. And here we have, here it states 31 square feet of farmland to produce a 2-pound bag of flour. And then on some of our other bags that we have the logos on is we sell a 2-pound bag of Danko rye flour, which is sourced from Coldbrook Farm in Oldwick, New Jersey. That was at 32 square feet. And then a 1-pound bag of rolled oats sourced from Gibbs Quest Farm in Alamucci, New Jersey. And the amount for 1-pound bag of rolled oats is 23 square feet. So there, again, some initial concerns that it took that amount of farmland to produce each of those bags. And I think that represented a great opportunity to just then speak to the need of why it's more important than ever to preserve farmland. And then preserve, not just for preservation's sake, but to make sure we preserve farmland and the farmland is being put into productive use for growing grains and local food. So I think it spoke to that level as well, to that need as well, I'm sorry. And the way we come up here, we got derived the numbers, the 31 square feet or the 32 square feet, is the NGA has helped to develop the square foot calculators so that bakers, maltsters, brewers, distillers can calculate how many square feet of farmland then it takes to produce a loaf of bread or a pint of beer. And I think now we're going to show a short video on the square foot calculators, and the public is welcome to use these as well and test them out. And they're really fun to work with.
Square Foot campaign is really great. It's something that is able to really connect the place where the beer starts, in a farmer's hand and ends in a consumer's hand in a glass or in a can, and give an idea about what it takes to make that beer. So we've calculated that it's roughly 4 square feet of grain field to produce 1 can of our IPA. Giving somebody the tool to say, what does it take to make this one beer, and then allows them to kind of start asking questions and extrapolate into, well, what does it take to make a batch of beer? What does it take to make a farm viable? How much beer is that? And kind of turning the normal quantifiers for how big is a farm, how big is a brewery, and being able to connect them about what each actually needs to be sustainable and do it year in, year out. Plant the grain, harvest the grain, have all the grain brewed with and consumed, and repeat the next year. It takes this very kind of large and abstract concept of grain infrastructure and the importance of scale and connection to the ingredients that you're working with, and it distills it down to this very simple, connected, I'm holding this in my hand. This glass is 4 square feet of grain field, and that 4 square feet means a whole lot to the farmer who has to sell 100 acres worth of grain every single year to be viable. It struck me as to how much beer was needed to be made to make a farm viable. The calculator was a big motivating factor in getting to be 100% locally grown grain. members of the Northeast Grainshed Alliance have a lot of opportunity to communicate something on their packaging in a whole paragraph. So the logo says, this is what you are consuming, right? When you buy this bread, it's 12 square feet or 16 square feet of wheat field. When you consume this beer, it's 4 square feet of local barley field. And that gives them a spatial connection to what they're actually consuming. And maybe if they drive by a 50-acre, 100-acre grain farm or barley farm, they all start to see that scale a lot differently and can take in about how much beer that actually is. Oh, hi, I didn't see it. And it's fun, you know, it's playing with numbers and ideas of what is it that you're drinking. The phrase, you are what you eat, or you are what you drink, comes to mind. And the more people know about what they're consuming, the better. Something that we're excited about putting on several cans or making t-shirts with. There's a lot of different ways to promote and get excited about using this one piece of information that all kind of stems from the grain calculator that we created. Playing with those numbers and finding the proper calculation out is only the first step. Putting it out in the world and getting people to start changing the way they think about what they're consuming, connecting it to the farmer itself or the farm itself is really the exciting and fun part of it.
Thanks for that calculation, Kem. 10.89 cans per acre, is that right?
10,000.
10,000, okay, I read it wrong.
10,890 cans. That's at the 4 square feet per acre.
Gotcha.
Yeah, per.
10 cans per acre, that'd be a little extravagant.
Yeah, that wouldn't be cost effective.
No, none of us would be drinking. Great. Thanks. That's so fun to see, Barry, your star of stage and screen and Zoom land. Anybody have any questions about the square foot campaign? We are going to have time to talk more about some of the stuff later. And so
yeah, I have a question.
Great.
How do we start using that labeling? I saw that there was, the different labels that reflected the amount of square footage used, and I just want to know, how do you actually put that into effect and start using that on your packaging?
First, you have to talk to Rumpelstiltskin and get through a secret layer. No, it's much simpler than that. No fairy tales involved. And Emily and Laura and Hannah can help you put your product into the calculator and get using the logo. So anybody, thank you for asking. And
thank you.
yeah, great. And anybody who's interested, Hannah just dropped the info part that's on there, or the part of the website that the info is on. Next up, we will have Katie Knowles give us an update on the needs assessment for Objective 3.
Hi there. Thanks. I'm Katie, and I'm a research intern at the University of Southern Maine. Matthew Hoffman sadly couldn't make it, so I'm taking his place. So yeah, our objective was to create a systemic needs assessment and strategy for expanding the Northeast grain economy. Our group completed the first phase of our needs assessment in the spring and summer of 2021. We identified various strengths, limitations, opportunities, and challenges. And then later this winter, we built on that initial needs assessment by conducting a second round of interviews with key stakeholders and experts to determine the most important systems level action steps for expanding the regional grain economy. Clear and consistent answers have yielded some good ideas for steps to take with the implementation plan. I am currently in the process of creating a map of NGA members to have ready for the first square foot Saturday. And then existing mill and brewery maps plus a lack of farmer data have left us unclear of whether more advanced or analytical mapping is needed at this point, but maybe a next step. And lastly, my colleague Maggie completed a history of the grain in the Northeast, which was part of our objective. And then for next steps, our mapping and then clarifying action steps around supply chain coordination for the implementation grant application.
Great, Katie, thank you. It's good to, and thank everyone for being a part of that project. Because I know that was a many-legged caterpillar walking along.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Next up is Tony, who's going to give an update on the research, and Aaron has some slides to share on that. So Emily or Laura, if you could give Aaron the slide sharing capacity. And Tony, take it away.
So hi, everybody. Tony Rosenfeld, a co-founder at One Muddy Mill in Lynn, Mass. I will start the ball rolling and then I'll graciously hand off to Aaron, who is good at the granular details. But as the first slide stated, our working group for Objective 4 has been charged with developing a framework for a collaborative program that identifies, evaluates, recommend new varieties of grains that are suitable for the ever-changing Northeast environment and meet the quality requirements for end users in the baking, brewing, and distilling industries. We've called on a lot of stakeholders that, in a good way, our group is filled with all layers of stakeholders in this. And I think Aaron can speak to the framework that we've kind of devised in our many meetings over the last year. So Aaron, on to you.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks so much for your hard work in organizing our monthly meetings and keeping our working group on task. This is really just a working title, the Eastern Grain Development Program. I think we could come up with something a lot sexier. And as Tony mentioned, that really this is a collaborative research program that will work throughout the Grainshed to help us really bring forward the best varieties of wheat and barley that we could use to make really phenomenal baked goods and beer and whiskey and all that kind of stuff. It builds on the success of a previous program that's sort of sunset called the Eastern Spring Barley Nursery. And in the same vein, we have 2 years of small plot variety testing that will be conducted with our really phenomenal partners at the University of Maine, University of Vermont, and Cornell University. And I think what we're the most excited about is the 3rd year, where we advance some of the most promising material to production scale, so we can get the varieties into the hands of millers and maltsters and bakers and brewers. And that, I think, is the most exciting part. The other part that really I think is going to make this work well is that there'll be a committee of people representing, plant breeders and agronomists, disease experts, pathologists, experts on grain quality, farmers, maltsters, millers, brewers, bakers, and distillers. We want a lot of eyes on the data so that we can make sure that we're targeting a balance of traits that perform well, both for the growers. We need varieties that work well in the field, but we know that end users have particular needs as well. And so we want everyone to participate. And so the entire process will be driven by the committee, not just single individuals making decisions. And that participation, I think, is really key. Yeah, like I said, years 1 and 2, 2 years of testing for new varieties that we can really scour the globe, from private plant breeders, open pollinated varieties, and varieties that come from local plant breeding programs like the ones at Cornell, where we have 2 years to vet those at 3 locations. So lots of data. That's material from the small plots will be sent to Hartwick College for grain testing, quality testing in the current Center for Craft Food and Beverage and in the coming Grain Innovation Center. But I have an update for you at the end. So we'll be able to do lab scale malting, but also lab scale baking tests. And we're excited about that. The third year, the most promising material. So if we find something that people start to get excited about, we'll be able to advance to large on-farm plots with the help of participating growers. 2 locations, one in New York, one in Maine. And then that grain can be taken directly into members' facilities for pilot scale malting on the barley side and milling on the wheat side, so that we can get the material into the hands of brewers and bakers to make evaluations. And this, I think, will really help us at that pinch point of the seed availability. We find that seed companies, are reluctant to sometimes support the market, but if we can, get the level of enthusiasm and market development, we think that that will help get the seed companies on board to support us. A lot of you are familiar with the work that's already going on at the Hartwick College Center for Craft Food and Beverage. That lab's in its 6th year of operation, testing primarily barley, but some other grains that are going into the malting, brewing, and distilling value chain. And work is now underway on the Grain Innovation Center, which will be located in downtown Oneonta. This center is a brand new facility, and it will have in it a bread lab, testing capabilities for wheat, pilot stone mill, and full baking capability, so that we can do that type of end use testing. Construction's underway, opening late in 2022, and we are currently in the process of trying to find a director for the center. This would be a phenomenal opportunity for an entrepreneurial type with a strong technical background in grain quality or baking, technical baking. And I would encourage you to spread the word through your networks. Once we get the director on board, and we're really excited about this sister organization for the CCFD to get going. So that is where people can apply. So yeah. Try to generate as much interest as you can. So I'll throw it back to Tony. Thanks for letting me share that update.
I think you covered everything. So I'll cede the floor. Thank you, Aaron.
Well, I think that one question for both of you came up in the chat, and that's, or 2 questions. Sarah Cox from New Hampshire was asking about getting involved in trials. So Sarah, I'm sure the answer is to be in touch with Tony and Aaron. And then Daniel from Seneca Grain and Bean offered cleaning for any trials. So if that's useful, there's a link there too.
I think the more inputs, the merrier. So it'll be greatly appreciated. We can connect offline.
That's great. And to make that connection easier, you guys can share your emails in the chat, and it won't be too gossipy. You could put them in the private part of the chat if you wanted. Anyway, thank you very much for those updates. Now we are ready for a few other updates. I'd love for the collaboration beer to get spelled out a bit more. And I know Matthew and maybe Andrea have some words to say about that. And Steve, after that, I'd love for you to talk about the grain race. And then we will take whatever else we have to talk about.
Are we talking about the collaboration beer?
Yeah.
Huh?
Matthew.
Wonderful. Yeah, happy to talk about it. And maybe Barry, if you want to unmute, and you can kind of chime in as well because you're in on this conversation. So we're all joining John. Is John not on the call? So we're joining John at Big Alice Brewing in Long Island City, New York, to brew the first of hopefully several collaboration beers in support of the Square Foot Project. Andrea is joining me, of course. We're going to take the road trip together. I think that there's several people on the call that are going to be there. Barry, we're brewing a Vienna lager. We're using Hudson Valley malts and Valley malts to produce about a 5.5% lager. The beer is being made on February 17th and to be released, I would assume, on Square Foot Saturday on April 2nd.
Yeah, and I think that at least one other maltster, Dennis, looking good in those overalls, buddy, is gonna be another maltster participating.
Oh, right on.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And yeah,
So we
I
have
don't
the
know. And
list of
like Laura,
breweries.
you're gonna be there. Like there's gonna be a bunch of people from the Grainshed there, which is really exciting. And kind of what we were thinking all along, you know, about the Grainshed was just to like do these collaborations where we can all just be together and create something together and highlight what it is that we work every day to do. So I'm super excited.
It's going to be a fun day.
Yeah.
The other breweries involved, my brewery is Exhibit A Brewing. We're in Framingham, Massachusetts. Also, Amory's Tomb is going to be there, and Kent Falls, of course. Our internet connection says it's unstable. Do you think they can hear us?
I hope so.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah.
Barry, I'm missing somebody.
Outland Farm Brewing. Mike
Farm
Collins
Brewing.
coming down from Maine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And will one of you, Barry or Matthew, talk about that thing that non-beer people don't know, that a collab beer kind of extends beyond the initial? So you've got this one iteration of it that's happening on February 17th, and then?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as just an opportunity for us to keep creating new beers, just in support of the whole concept, right? I mean, I know that I can't wait to brew one at Barry's Brewery. So what do you think, man?
I'm excited. Yeah, so the idea went between, I guess, and initially it was, do we all do it in our own footprints and for our own customers in unison on one day, so that you kind of, like it would be a feed if people followed all of us, of just they see one Square Foot beer after another? Or do we do it in one location? So we're starting, which we decided to do, we're starting in Queens at Big Alice, and then the hope or plan is to rotate around and do one up here, sometime in the spring, or in the summer, and then out in Matt's Brewery in Framingham, and continue building upon the success of them and familiarity, where it could be the same beer, it could have a slight twist to it. It'll naturally be a little bit different being brewed in each of our locations, with potentially slightly different farms supplying the grain, but just keep rolling that excitement out and collaboration between the group, and having the Square Foot terminology at the forefront in people's minds.
Yeah.
And we were talking about maybe making little table talkers for the beers. Yep. Where it goes. So like if it ends up at a bar, hopefully we'll, down the distribution supply chain, we'll have these little table talkers that talk a little bit about the collaboration beer.
That's a great idea.
People, like, order it.
Yeah, and certainly in our own tap rooms for sure. Yeah. it'll be, it's wide open. We can kind of, yeah.
But all the work that, you know, the Square Foot Campaign people, that committee has done in the last year is just super applaudable. I just want to like clap for Hannah and Len and, you know, Emily and Laura and Lily and everybody that's been a part of it. It's been really fantastic. Barry obviously being the person that kind of initially just sparked the concept with everybody. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. We're telling people in our tap room how many square feet, how many acres actually. We tell them acres because it's also fun. Like every time a pallet shows up, it's another, you know, acre and 3/4 or
We ship that on every like
I love that. It's so great.
It's the best. I'm actually lining the bathroom with them.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah,
is that it's like a badge of honor.
We're
You can
keeping
just
them.
it's like a cheap badge of honor.
Comes
A
free.
Boy
on my
Scout
card.
badge.
I got 2 of them today. Yeah, so it's an exciting project. I think we covered most of it. Vienna Lager, if that wasn't clear for this first one. See what happens with the second one.
And I think we have a name for it, right?
Oh
Did you
yeah,
say it?
Raising the Grain. Yeah, which
Raising the
actually,
Grain.
which I don't know who said that. Or
I think John, who's not on the call, but John from Big Alice, I think that was kind of
it was he
was
saw
really-
it somewhere though. He
yeah.
saw it on, I think, the Northeast Grainshed Alliance website.
yeah, and we were all just like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it made sense. Yeah. So that is
Great.
the name. I wasn't
Well,
sure. 100%.
I don't know.
I'm lucky. I didn't have
Awesome.
to do the Zoom connection tonight. I just used Andrea's.
Yeah, we decided we were gonna socialize a little and do the call.
that's good. It's a good idea.
You guys should see this malt house that we're hanging out in. Pretty-
I have seen its paneling on a few meetings and it really is intriguing. I can't wait to
Can
get
you see the
over it.
plants though? Look at the plants. Like that plant is huge. That plant is 12 feet tall.
The plant with the paneling is just begging for cigars. Where are your cigars?
Amy, we're health nuts over here. We're not.
Oh, well. Let's see.
I think, can we do a quick introduction to the steering committee? Is that?
Oh, I forgot that there's
right,
that.
yeah.
What time is it? Because I do want to have Steve say a little bit about the grain race.
6:43. We're doing pretty well with time.
Okay.
You do like a quick intro to the steering committee and then move on to that. Cool.
Steve, we will get back to you.
Okay,
Swear to God.
I will do this very quickly, but I am very excited to introduce the NGA's new steering committee. Back in 2020, at the first symposium we had a governance structure breakout session, and we talked about how it was important to allow at least a year before we formalized our governance structure to see how things went and what we needed. And so now, 2 years out, both individually in the position that I'm in with the NGA and also as an organization, we decided that we would all benefit from a structure that included a steering committee in addition to our incredible 36-member advisory board. And so we just held elections in the first of the year, and our 7-member steering committee is going to help us with annual planning and budget, monitoring different committee statuses and progress, providing guidance and decision-making, reviewing and approving grant submissions, and updating the advisory board quarterly. So several of the steering committee members are here. If you just want to raise your hand, I will just show you.
I actually can pick up fresh, like with roasted
And
malts.
the malt was like,
Oh, hey, Andrea, if you guys could mute, sorry.
sorry.
That's okay. So Nadine Magak, who you heard from on Action Plan, Tristan Noyes from the Maine Grain Alliance, Zachary Robinson from Short Path Distillery, Lenny Busanich, who you met from River Valley Community Grains, Hannah Smalls, who was our outreach coordinator, Tony Rosenfeld from One Mighty Mill, and Andrea Stanley, who's right here from Ground Up Grain and Valley Malt. So thanks everybody for being on the steering committee. It's going to be really fun to work together. So, okay, I can hand it over to Steve now.
Yeah, and I just want to say I'm excited that we have a steering committee because it streamlines operations. So it's anytime there's a big decision to get made, it doesn't have to go out to 30 people for approval. So it's wonderful. Steve, would you give us the nuts and bolts of the grain race and how to participate?
Certainly, I can do that. So the grain race is, it's got a whole long history based out of sailing ships that were rusting apart from Australia to England around Cape Horn by the last sailing ships. But we're not going to be quite that ambitious this time. So the basics are that it is a game of food movement, like literally moving food from point A to point B. So the basics are that you can enter any vehicle and you just have to move an amount of grain from, let's say, a malt house to a brewery. So from one person to another, person who has it to a person who's going to use it. For every ton-mile of grain that you move, you get 1 point. And a ton mile, if you move half a ton, 2 miles, that's 1 ton mile. It's relatively easy to calculate. The other side of that is for every liter of fuel that you burn, or 10 kilowatt hours of electricity you take off the grid, you lose 5 points. And this was specifically planned so that you can't use a typical pickup truck and attain a positive score. So you have to come up with something more creative. So the idea is that it's working on the sustainability side of food delivery as opposed to just food production. And you can enter one trip, essentially, anytime in the month of May. There is no formal start line or formal finish line. There's no requirement for speed. And there's 4 categories for cargo capacity. So if you're, riding your bike with a backpack full of grain across the state or across town, you're not competing against people who are, for example, sailing a 10-ton cargo capacity sailboat down the Hudson River. There's so far 2 major participants I'm aware of on the shipping side of things. That's the schooner Apollonia, and they're going to be moving malt in May, and then Solar Sal Boats is also looking to enter a cargo on probably one of the New York State Canal systems, or possibly Lake Champlain as well. So it will, at the moment, it's a sailboat versus a solar boat, which will be interesting for those of us in the maritime transport sector. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. I'll put my email in the chat here, and you can also find out more at hrmm.org/Northeast Grain Race. And again, if you have any questions or if you'd like help figuring out how to enter or planning an entry, do let me know. I will be more than happy to give a hand.
Great, thanks, Steve. Any questions? Anyone?
Does the grain have to be in grain form, or can it be in a processed form such as flour, beer, whiskey, etc.?
So that is a very good question that I completely forgot to address there. It can be in either raw grain or, for example, milled, malted, something of that nature. As soon as you add something else to it, then it's disqualified. Because since it's based on mass that you're moving, if you allow an entry for beer, for example, you're it makes the competition completely unfair because of the water volume, the amount of water and the weight difference. So that's the rules as they currently stand. But we could use the same rules for a beer run or a bread roll.
That
I have
sounds
a
like it could get,
question.
yeah.
Hey, hi, everybody.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, so what is our objective, or what is the research that we seek to do with the grain race?
Good
Or is
question.
it,
It's partly to just get people thinking about how food gets from a farm to them, because almost no one actually thinks about that, but also how it can be done without fossil fuels. There's not a lot of people aside from, well, a very small number of people like me really looking at that right now, and we're trying to bring attention to that, as well as the local food economy and the local grain shed as well. And that kind of started out of my brother's a farmer in Vermont, and my sister's a chef in coastal New Hampshire, and I'm just kind of right between them. So that's kind of where that came from. So getting people thinking about how local grains move and how local foods get to them.
excellent, thank you.
Super. Emily, you want to do a financial report here?
Hannah, were you gonna do that? I'm happy to, but didn't want to take that from you.
Sorry, I got it wrong.
Just kind of say the specs, and if you have anything to add, I'll just do it real quick. And
sure.
Yeah, so the Grainshed was conceived in 2020, and I don't think this would be possible without the amazing 101 founding members. Like I said, I still feel like a novice, but it's amazing to see what y'all do every day, making it possible to have a regional grain chain. And with that, last year we had 37 new members, so we now have 137 active members as of 2021. We had like a mini membership drive in the fall. Hopefully we'll have an annual membership drive every year. It's my personal goal to meet every single member, even if it takes me like 5 years. But yeah, I hate this virtual stuff. So eventually, and that's kind of like the graph of what kind of members we have and how it's divvied up. See that? We have a lot of farm members, which is awesome because the work would not be possible without them. And then the financial report, just to kind of show how we get our funds and our finances for last year. 9,111 from renewals and new members, and from our grants, general mills, and is 129,000 with a total of 138,596 for total revenue. And we'll actually be sending a complete financial report out by 2/15 next week, surprisingly. And yeah, I think this shows how important the implementation grant is, and the
Hannah, I think your volume cut out.
organization to really do some good for our regional grain chain. So
Great. Thanks, Hannah. It's good to see it all numbered out.